Welcome back to the show. And here we are again.
Here we are again. And we just had a moment where we were hitting record and we realized we're batching content today. We're creating multiple podcasts in the same day, but we're also creating, we want to be efficient with our time and we want to get our message out there. So we're creating content for YouTube as well. And so we're wearing the same clothes here.
Right before I hit record, I'm like, we wear the same clothes?
Yeah.
Yep,
So if you're tired of the stripes, sorry.
We're not ones to edit. We don't edit. We don't curate. We're real. We don't even plan.
True that.
We don't even plan, because here we are, like legitimately, we just recorded a podcast. We just hit record on this one and we said, what are we talking about?
We have a list of ideas, but
okay. So today, here we talk about what we hear, right?
Yeah.
What we're getting better at. I'm not great at yet, but we're getting better at listening. And listening means, like, what is it that we are out there, we as human beings are experiencing, and what is a common theme?
Mm-hmm.
And the one that popped up in our awareness was transitioning.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we all are. I think let's simplify this down for just a minute. Like, if you stop and think about it, we are all transitioning in life every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
From moment to moment, from task to task, from business to home life, from day to day, right? From year to year, those type of things. But then
season to
season. But the big transitions that happen are maybe going from high school to college to the real world, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's say it's school. You are going from
single to married,
maybe going through a divorce. Maybe there's been a loss.
Becoming a parent.
Becoming a parent. Then the kids move out. That's another huge one.
Big time. And right now is the time that all the high school graduations are happening, right? A lot of people are going through that. Like, okay, I'm about to have an empty nest. And what does that mean for my next phase of life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I have experienced in transition is now that I'm able to look back on it, like, this is why we're doing what we do, is I want to share some of our experiences of life as they become more clear, how we could have handled them with more ease and with more grace, and created less of a ripple. Or maybe a more positive ripple is a better way of putting it in our lives, right? The ripples are going to be created, but we can create ones that are creating more of a positive impact on our environment and ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So in transitions, and I'm not going to go into my story a ton, but the biggest transition I've ever made was obviously going from my life pursuit of being a collegiate football coach to, like, really not having a freaking clue what was the next stage of my life going to be about. And like, I stepped into that void, into that transition without knowing, right? Which created and leading up to that created what I would call an identity crisis, right? Where it was having to strip, like, everything who I thought I was, and then get really curious about, right? Okay, well then who do I want to be, or who am I really beyond all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to keep this conversation, just so you know, I want to keep it very tangible, right? Not go too esoteric with the who am I conversation, because I don't think that's going to be overly relatable, but I do recommend you individually taking that question to the depths. Who am I? But beyond that, we're going to just have a very tangible conversation about identity. So we all play roles. What are some of the roles? What are some of the roles?
I'll give you a list of a couple of roles that I play. And this is interesting because people will say, like, tell me about yourself, right? Tell me about you. Well, I am a woman. I am 39 years old. I'm married. I have 2 children. I am a coach. I run another service-based business. I like to work out, right? All these things that you are playing roles within. and we won't go too deep down this road, but I think that, if you're listening to this, you're into personal development, you have an idea that you're not any of those things. Those are things that you're doing and participating in, and titles that you're kind of taking on or accepting about yourself. The truth is, you're a human being, you're a soul having a human experience. So we won't take it any deeper than that, but
That's as deep as it
that's
gets.
as deep as it gets. I'm going to leave it with that.
We're not going to talk about how to get there.
You can
is what you're
ponder
gonna say.
that.
Yeah.
But when we over identify with any of these roles, whether it be a career or our parenthood or our, marriage or relationship with a partner, sometimes what we can be doing is setting ourselves up for disappointment or setting ourselves up for suffering ultimately. If I'm a mother and I'm so identified with being a mother, and now my child is leaving the home, who am I without that? Who am I if I'm not responsible for taking care of these other people? Or if I'm so identified with my role in my career and all of a sudden, I get laid off or something changes. Now who am I if I'm not that role? So I think that we can get over identified with any aspect of what we're doing or who we're being in our life and lose track of who we really are. And when we're talking about transition, I think the important key to that is getting in touch with who you truly are and what those values are for you, and then being able to take that into the next, whatever the next phase is for yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So before we do that, in my opinion, I agree with you 100%. And the reason why I pause is not because I don't agree. I totally agree with you. I was just trying to decide where I'm going to steer the conversation next.
This is our authentic, unscripted method.
So basic human needs comes to mind when it comes to identity, right? We have physical well-being, we have connection, a sense of self, and meaning or purpose in life, right? Now, this is what we have. I know there's different models out there, but we have simplified it to those 4.
Mm-hmm.
Physical well-being, food, water, shelter, touch, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is a human need. Connection, we're community members, we're tribal beings. We have to be in relationship with others.
Mm-hmm.
A sense of self, a sense of autonomy, like we know who we are, separate then. And then meaning to our lives. Meaning can be contribution, purpose, significance. These different things kind of wrapped up. So they all interplay into each other. They all interweave, and they're actually cyclical. So they all feed into each other as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like your meaning can come from the role that you play within your family system or something. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the more meaning you have in your life, the easier it is to take care of yourself physically, right? And so they all feed into each other. When we are over identified with one of these over the other, meaning that our role as a father or as a mother is a great one as an example, then we begin to lose our sense of self a little bit, right? Our autonomy, what makes us unique and significant and irreplaceable, right? So there's this weird integration in between saying, okay, let's first come to this place of recognizing and accepting that there's this human component that we're all experiencing, that we deeply desire this connection, that we really take a lot of ownership and responsibility and weight on this role of, let's just stay with this parenthood thing, right?
Yeah.
Because that's probably
very relatable.
Very relatable. So, man, it becomes who we are. Like, I am a father, right? Good. Like, good. So let's not judge that. Do not get it confused in this conversation that we're saying that you should detach from that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So be in that experience of what it feels like and the connection that you feel because you are a mother or a father. Okay. So that's normal. First of all, what I have found is when I'm in a group, it happened this morning. It was so incredibly beautiful. There was a group of 5 men in a group, and we're talking about certain aspects of the human experience. And there was a common thread amongst all 5 of them. And one of the participants got emotional and goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm not alone."
Hmm. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was an emotional moment kind of for everybody, because we all paused and we're like, hey man, yeah, like we're all dealing with something. We're all traversing something. We all want something new or different or that's unknown. We're all in some sort of have an obstacle or struggle that we're battling with.
Sure.
Right. There's an unknown for every one of us. So let's stop acting like we're the only one. Like it's part of the human experience.
Mhm.
Right. So this allows for, I believe, a level of compassion to enter into the conversation. If you're in transition, I'm just going to flat out tell you right now, first and foremost, it is downright scary.
Mhm.
I have never been more scared in my life.
Yeah.
When I was, it's funny, man. I said I wasn't going to go to my story, but I'm going to tell a little bit of it. When I was sitting in that football office at Eastern Washington, bless you, at Eastern Washington University, the Monday after the season ended, knowing that I had already, bless you,
Sorry. They always come in twos or threes.
okay, story, knowing that I had already made the decision to that this was going to be my last season, um, and sitting in that office, like knowing I didn't have the capacity to move forward or the desire to move forward as a collegiate football coach,
Mhm.
but still having to get myself to walk down the hall and speak to my head coach at the time, Bo Baldwin, about that I was hanging it up, right? And there was so much wrapped up into that, where he was a friend, and all the other things, not to mention, like, legitimately, I remember not knowing who I was going to be, what I was going to do, how I was going to provide, like, all of these things that make you feel like you know who you are. You're a
Mhm.
father, you're a husband, you provide, you put food on the table. You know what I mean? Like, you're a football coach, you put the whistle around your neck. Hey, you
Mhm.
everywhere you go, hey coach, hey coach.
Right.
I mean, to this
Yeah.
day, people still call me
Yeah.
coach, which
Right.
I'm not a coach, but or if I were to bump into an old player, they wouldn't call me Ryan or coach or Sawyer. They'd say coach,
Mhm.
right? 95% of them anyway. So it was scary. But I can remember, and I wrote about this in my book, when I walked out of those doors for that final time of being on payroll, how it was incredibly scary. And at the same time, there was this sense of complete freedom.
Mm.
I'm going,
Yep.
well, now I'm in the unknown. And I'm going to tell you something about the unknown. Like, your
Mhm.
brain is going to process that as a threat,
Yep.
right? Anything unknown or unfamiliar, like you're in a job transition, or like your high schooler or your last kid is moving out of the house,
Mhm.
right? And now you are an empty nester. There's going to be this level of unknown and unfamiliar, that your brain is going to process that as a threat.
Yeah.
It's going to feel dangerous to you.
Yeah. You might feel excited about that. Like I'm thinking about the empty nester person. You might feel excited about it, but at the same time, you might go, wow, it's just the two of us. What are we going to talk about all the time?
Right. All
Right. So
those
there's
things.
that unknown.
Yeah, there's that
Mhm.
unknown where you legitimately, but here's what I'm also going to tell you, that in that unknown, there is incredible freedom. There's
Mhm.
incredible power, because it's in the unknown that there's not a predetermined pattern,
Yeah.
right? So we're in our environments, we're in our schedule, we're going to work, we're raising the kids, we're taking them to soccer practice, we're getting dinner ready, we're doing the things, we're getting people to bed, we're in these patterns, we're in our life, and there's not room. There's
Yeah.
not room to explore.
Yeah.
There's not room to create. There's not room to be curious and to be wondrous about what else could be possible. There's not room for you to create a different version of you, or to have a connection with yourself or somebody else in your life, like a significant
Mhm.
other, that you currently don't know is
Yeah.
possible, right? Like, so it's that same. So there's polarity. I think you mentioned polarity in the last podcast, didn't you? So, like, there's polarity. If it's scary,
Mhm.
it's also could potentially be, you could transmute that into there will be, by law, the law of polarity is a
Mhm.
law. There's a positive and negative charge to everything. Right now, I don't say positive as good and negative as bad. I mean, there's just
There's 2 energies,
there's two
right.
different energies of opposite,
Mhm.
right, and equal amount. Meaning that if I'm scared of the unknown, there should be just that same level of opportunity and of excitement that would be available to me if I choose to embrace it and focus on it. Right. So I think I gave 2 points there. Number one was compassion, because it's going to feel scary. It's going to be unknown, which is going to create a sense of yeah, just where it's not going to feel safe.
Mhm.
Right. It's going to feel like a threat. Right. So there's that level of compassion and acceptance that this is part of the human experience. And then at the same moment, you're able to come to this realization that if that's happening, then the other can be possible as well. And now
Mhm.
I begin to explore how that's
Mhm.
going to work
That's where
for
I
me.
see like the benefit in so many of our integrated mindset students learning in depth about the human experience and kind of what that looks like, because as you do step into that place of, okay, I'm having a transition in my life and this is scary, you can actually practice compassion and go, yeah, okay, this is hard, and that's okay. And that's okay. And now what do I want from a place of compassion, from a place of acceptance? Now what do I want my next steps to look like? And with our students, they understand the cycle of transformation and all these other tools that we teach, and some of those we've taught here on the podcast as well. But when you think about the cycle of transformation, you have this choice point. Sometimes it's not a choice. Sometimes you get laid off from your job and now you have to figure out what the heck's next. Like, you are pushed into a transition, or you get injured, or something happens, right? Um, and sometimes it's a choice where you want something to be different and you start to take that leap. And the next thing that happens is you create a void. So you have created space. Naturally, in a transition, there's space. So when you start to understand A, the human experience, and B, the cycle of transformation and how that works, you can go, okay, I can show myself compassion in this moment that, yeah, this is hard and it's okay. And I don't know what's next, and that's okay too. And then you move into that place of creating that void. You can actually, like Ryan said, transmute that and say, now I'm in this open space. It's like this picture behind us, open waters, endless possibility, if I choose to see it that way. If my kid is leaving, going off to college, and I'm going to be here with my husband, and I'm thinking, what the heck are we going to talk about? And I'm thinking of that in a negative light, like it's scary. What if we don't connect? What if we do? What if we really, really connect and it's the most beautiful thing beyond what I could have ever imagined, because we've had this journey together and now it's time for the next. So it's exciting to think about it in terms of understanding these tools and then looking at the new possibility. So that's my thoughts on tying
Yes.
in what you were sharing.
So you're passing the ball back to me.
I'm passing it back to you because I feel like I just kind of dropped the mic there.
A mic
But
drop. She just,
like, that's
you
it.
can't
And that's it.
self-determine mic drops. Mic
Yes, I
drops is something.
can.
Yeah. Okay, maybe
Yes,
you
I
can.
can. But
Okay.
you know what? Because I
Well,
felt it. Because I
next
thought
time you feel it, then you have to actually say out loud to yourself or to everybody. The
you
mic
should
drop.
add a sound effect.
What's the mic drop sound like? Don't actually drop the mic. It's expensive. Okay, so uh
So
yeah,
the 2 points that you made was like having compassion.
yeah.
And then the second, what was the second one again?
Having compassion. I don't remember.
Well, we talked about creating space
Yeah,
for transition,
yeah.
transmuting the emotion.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's creating, it's having compassion and recognizing that the opposite is going to be just as
yeah,
available to you at the
that the
same time.
opposite is just as available to you. So if it's like the example that I shared about this hypothetical person with the empty nest, yeah, so the opposite could be true. So isn't that amazing when you can be in transition, you can start to kind of point your light, right? Because where you shine your light is where you see, and that's where you'll go. You could start to shine your light in the direction of the possibility that you do want to experience.
So what I has heard is where your attention goes, energy flows,
Mhm.
right? So one of the takeaways this morning, again, this group this morning was really transformational. I'm realizing because I have like 3 or 4 things that I'm talking about here. Um,
This is why it's so
was
hard to title these podcasts.
yeah. So you know, one of the things again, Heidi mentioned that we normalize the human experience. Like this has been one of my missions and goals, so I could understand it, so I could liberate myself, and I could be able to teach my children how to, if they struggle, liberate themselves, and then now on and on we go, right? With our teams, with our community, with our clients and everybody else. The more that you understand the natural tendencies of your mind, the less you're going to judge them. Like it's just the mind doing what the mind does. Well, one of the things that the mind is going to always do, it's going to have a natural tendency to focus on what you don't have,
Lack.
what you don't want. I don't want that. What if you and I can't connect? And if you sit around and you're in a relationship where you're worrying about not connecting, guess what you're going to end up experiencing?
Not connecting.
Not connecting. Right. And
Because you're so afraid to connect.
right. And so in transition, so again, now listen to this because this is so incredibly important. Write this down somewhere and put it on a post-it note. If you're in transition, your mind is going to cling to what it's losing, right? What you now no longer have in your life. I'm no longer a football coach. I'm losing this identity. Oh my gosh. Yes, there's going to be things that change. Some friends aren't going to come around anymore. I used to have friends and family members who came to Spokane multiple times a year. Was because they thought what I did was cool, but the game brought us together. Great. But, those relationships have changed. If I was still coaching, they would still be coming around. Right. I could focus on that. I could focus on what I was losing, or I could focus on what I had potentially to gain. Right. And I think
that's where it's at.
Wayne Dyer even talks about this, I believe. And I would love to go back and look at it. Was it Wayne Dyer? No, I can't remember who it was, but it was a profound statement about legitimately focusing on what you potentially have to gain because of this transition. Right. And that's not always easy to do. I know some of us are in transitions that are incredibly hard.
Right.
I know about people that are close to us in our life that are going through something I personally, would not wish upon anybody.
Yep.
But the reality is we have a choice. We have a choice to then shift towards what is now possible because of this space in my life. What now can I explore? Who now can I become? How does this make me more resilient? How can I then have a deeper connection with myself or somebody else in my world because my kid is moving out of the house? Our mind has this tendency to focus on lack, on what we don't have and what we don't want. So I'm saying that there's the compassion. Your mind is going to do that. You don't get out of that.
Yeah.
You're human, just like me. My mind this morning woke up in lack. It did.
That's true. Yeah. You
I had
told me about that.
Right. And so then I was like, I'm in lack. I know that's just my mind doing what my mind is meant to do. I'm not going to get caught up in the story of it.
Yeah.
I'm
It's trying to protect you.
It's trying to conserve energy and keep myself from being socially rejected and all of these things. Yeah. Right. But I've developed this incredible watchman at the gate that says, settle, compassion, let that be there. Don't judge it. That's okay. I know that's what you're doing. I know you're trying to conserve energy. Go ahead, mind. And I'm legit. This is what I'm talking. I'm giving you my internal dialogue. Go ahead, mind. Do what you're going to do. Create the story. I'm just going to sit back here and watch it. Play it out to completion. What's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, okay. Well, no matter how it turns out, I know I'm going to be okay. I've been through transition before. I know that I can overcome. I know that I can do hard things. Okay. What else is possible? Right. And like legitimately, that is a shift. And that's what we teach. It's surrender and shift, to let go of an old identity, an old experience, the roles that we once played that now the world does not need you to play anymore. Right. And that's the reality, is that when your kids graduate, your role as a father or mother is changing. You are no longer needed in the same capacity.
Mhm.
right? So now it's time for us to discover how and which ways we are now needed.
Yeah.
What now makes us
Yeah.
irreplaceable?
How
Because
can I contribute now?
how can I
Yeah.
contribute now? Every single person in this world is irreplaceable.
Mhm.
Every single person in this world, you are irreplaceable.
Yeah. You're 1 in 400 trillion. I think I read 1 in 400 trillion, the odds of you being born. That's like winning the lotto. I think it said it's winning the lotto like 33 million times. It's crazy when you look at the odds. So yes, it's a precious life. And transition just means that you have an opportunity that you get to do something different with that precious life that you've been given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you get to have a new experience because here's the reality. When again, it's my like fundamental desires or approaches to life is to explore life in a way that allows for me to continue to transcend, to evolve, to grow, to heal, whatever word that resonates with you, doesn't matter, right? And to see the good and then teach others how to do the same, right? So because I now get to have a whole different life, because I'm gone through this transition, and since then I've gone through another transition where I was,
Mhm.
a business owner, and then now I'm starting another business and whatever else, right?
Mhm.
Each experience, I become a greater, and I'm saying you, when I say I'm saying all of us become
Right.
a greater expression of ourselves. So the more experiences that we have in the world, meaning the more that we let go of the role or the identity that we once played that allowed for us to be irreplaceable in
Mhm.
that last moment,
Yeah.
yesterday's moment, where I was a college football coach or I was a painter or I was a parent or whatever it is, like that's what made me irreplaceable yesterday.
Mhm.
Now it's allowing for me to experience and explore what makes me irreplaceable today.
Yeah.
And now I'm a greater expression of myself. So legitimately, that's what allows for my consciousness to evolve, right? To transcend. And the more my consciousness evolves and transcends, the more the world becomes a better place because my ability to perceive value in myself and in others has a greater capacity. And the better I'm able to be able to see the value that I give and how I'm irreplaceable and how then you
Mhm.
are, and
Mhm.
I see that in you and playing out in you,
Mhm.
right? The world becomes a better place, becomes more unified rather than separated. So
Mhm.
we're using this ability to transition. We're using the opportunity that you're in a transition in life, big, small, to evolve, to grow,
Yeah.
to transcend, to increase your consciousness, to raise your level of consciousness, to raise your level to perceive value, and therefore creating a better world for yourself, for next generations to come.
Mic drop.
Oh, she gave me a mic drop. We got to have it.
I feel like we need to be like what I can't remember what that guy's name was. We were on his podcast and he had like a bell that he would ring. I think that would be fun when we have guests. Probably kind of weird if we do it with ourselves all the time, but you know what?
I find it funny.
I don't have any judgment around that, you know.
I mean, if I mic drop, it's okay for you to say a mic drop.
Yeah, and it feels good,
It
right? You
feels
got
good.
it out. So but
I'm not identified with that mic drop.
yeah,
I'm letting that go. I'm
you're like,
transitioning
oh
into this
man, we
moment.
recorded a podcast and didn't even get any mic drops. I must have sucked today.
I remember that podcast. We both went on that podcast, and then it was a cowbell. He had like
Yes.
and he rang the cowbell like 3 or 4 times for you. Like you're like, yeah, I got 3 rings or 4 rings, and then I think I was like, well, I got to go for more than that, then.
Yeah, I get the
Anyway,
little competitive thing going on.
it's fun.
But yeah, I think wonderful points that you just made about transitioning. And if you are in a place where you're in a transition in your life and you're kind of wondering what's next and you want to dive into learning some of these tools to better understand the human experience, to equip yourself to make that transition and to be able to see those glimpses of goodness and to be able to orient yourself toward the more positive outcomes that are possible, then I want to invite you to join our integrated mindset 10-week program. I have a group for women specifically that is going to be starting mid-July. And I know that some of our other coaches have groups happening as well. So if you're interested in that, reach out to us, visit our website, ihpcoaching.com, and learn more. And don't wait. Don't deny yourself that opportunity, because if you are in that place, then this is the exact right place and time for you to do this program.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for listening.